Good evening, I'm Prasad Michael and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. The MP of Bintulu is standing by his statement on Dr Noor Hisham Abdullah and he's prepared to face the backlash. He explained why today. Bintulu MP Tiong is standing his ground and said he was willing to face backlash following his harsh criticism of Health Ministry Director General Dr Noor Hisham Abdullah's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. He said he didn't care about the backlash if it meant keeping the DG accountable. Tiong, who is the PDB president, had on Wednesday accused Noor Hisham of being afraid to die for not visiting Sabah at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in the state.
Kita pergi tengok, perbincang kasih moro siapa itu frontliner juga. Doktor, jurulawat, tiada semua bekerja sana. Jangan hantar saja doktor pergi, jurulawat pergi. Oh, itu orang tak takut mati, tapi DG takut mati. Timbalan DG pun tak pergi. Apa sudah jadi?
Tiong made the remark during his debate on the Supply Bill 2021, prompting Jelutong MP Arasan Rare to demand an apology for the alleged insult.
Saya minta Bintulu tarik balik kenyataan DG takut mati.
Memang itu DG takut mati. Apa pasal doktor semua turun?
Saya minta Bintulu tarik balik kenyataan DG takut mati.
Kenapa dia turun?
Saya minta dia Bintulu tarik balik kenyataan DG takut mati.
In a statement today, Tiong said the nation's COVID-19 numbers are beyond serious, with the economy going down the drain. Tiong maintained that his criticism of the DG is justified. He gave the example of instances where medical workers in Sarawak had to improvise due to the lack of personal protective equipment. There have been multiple reports about a shortage of PPE throughout the course of the pandemic, but Noor Hisham has often maintained that there is enough supply. While the police may have been given discretionary powers when it comes to the number of people allowed to travel together in a vehicle, two lawmakers have asked the government to revise the rule. Two elected representatives are bewildered by the CMCO rule prohibiting more than two people from the same household to ride in the same vehicle at any one time. And now they are calling for a revision of the rule. Bukit Gasing Assembly President Rajiv questioned the government's logic in prohibiting more than two people from the same household to live together, while allowing up to four people from different households to eat together. He asked if the government thought that contact with people from different households is safer than from within the same household. On a post on Facebook, Rajiv wrote, quote, "Can you brain that? How is this helping to fight COVID-19? The National Security Council keeps getting sillier in their standard operating procedures." Meanwhile, Segamut MP Hannah Yeo urged the government to allow more than two people from the same family to travel together. Yeo said single parents are facing challenges under the existing rules. She said many single parents cannot leave their kids alone at home, adding that family members should be allowed to be in the same vehicle. And it appears the government has been listening because this evening the rules were revised. Senior Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob has announced the latest rules for people from the same household wishing to travel in the same vehicle.
Orang ramai meminta supaya memberi sedikit lagi kelonggaran. Jadi oleh itu, mesyuarat hari ini bersetuju untuk memberikan kelonggaran iaitu 3 untuk satu kenderaan. Ya. Dan ini samalah seperti e-hailing, taksi, iaitu 1+2. Kalau e-hailing dengan taksi, driver campur dengan 2 penumpang. Jadi oleh kerana kita dah benarkan 1+2 dalam e-hailing dan kenderaan awam yang lain, taksi, maka kita samakan dari segi jumlah iaitu 3 untuk setiap kenderaan. Jadi ini sebenarnya bagi kita supaya kita mendengar pandangan dan juga permohonan daripada ramai.
This rule will only apply for people travelling from the same household. Police will continue to be given discretionary powers on allowing exemptions in certain cases. Ismail also announced the SOPs for those celebrating Deepawali this year. For those in enhanced MCO areas, they will not be allowed to leave their homes to celebrate Deepawali. However, they may celebrate it at home with their family members. For those in conditional MCO areas, celebrations are allowed, but guests must be limited to 20 people at any one time among family members. Those attending prayer ceremonies at temples are also reminded to always comply with the SOPs. Only 30 people will be allowed to be in the temple at one time, based on the size of the temple. Prayer ceremonies will also be divided into 5 sessions, starting from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. Has the COVID-19 epicenter finally switched back to Peninsular Malaysia? From Sabah, Based on today's figures, that might be the case. Here's the country's latest situation. The number of new COVID-19 cases reported in the Klang Valley regions have exceeded the figure reported in Sabah. From the 1,304 new cases reported today, Sabah reported 556 cases. However, Selangor and Kuala Lumpur reported 361 and 201 new cases respectively. One new death was reported in Sabah, bringing the country's cumulative death toll to 304 cases. Meanwhile, 900 recoveries were reported today, with a slight increase of active cases to 11,822. The number of patients in intensive care also grew by 4 to 96. The number of incubated patients also recorded a growth of 4 to 39. Wong Yan Ke was granted a 1,000 ringgit bail today, and the re-mention of his case has been set for next year. Former student activist Wong Yan Ke claimed trial to a charge under Section 188 of the Penal Code at the Petaling Jaya Magistrates Court today. The former University Malay Association of New Youth President's Counsel, Raj Suryan Pillai, told reporters that the prosecution had applied for a 7,000 ringgit bail. However, Magistrate Nur Shahira Abdul Salim granted a 1,000 ringgit bail and set February 21st for re-mention of the case.
Of course, pihak kami menghujahkan bahawa terlalu tinggi lah. It does not make sense. Wong Yan Ke is a fresh graduate from UN. He's educated. He lives in PJ and has given his full cooperation sepanjang penyiasatan dalam kes ni, dan pada hari ini pun beliau hadir sendiri. That's the most important part. Dia hadir sendiri dalam kes ni tanpa sebarang formal notice daripada pihak polis. Just by WhatsApp, beliau sendiri telah hadir.
The charge relates to disobedience to an order duly promulgated by a public servant during a November 7th police raid on the house of Wong's successor, linked to a probe on an article published by Yumani on the role of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Two other lawyers, Kuhan Manokaran and Tan Wei Shin, also appeared for Wong. Meanwhile, lawyer Cyrus Thew Fu Wei held a watching brief on behalf of the Bar Council. DPP Atifah Hazimah Wahab, meanwhile, appeared for the prosecution. Police are investigating Yumani under the Sedition Act as well as the Communications and Multimedia Act over an October 30th article which saw a deluge of police reports lodged against the association. The article followed Yang di-Pertuan Agong's rejection of the government's request for an emergency declaration and him advising all MPs to support the Budget 2021. Yumani had argued that the king should not interfere in national affairs and must always maintain a neutral attitude and play his role within the framework permitted by the constitution. However, in a Facebook posting yesterday, the association retracted the article and apologized to the monarch. Coming up next, we continue our conversation with Musli Malik. Former Minister Musli Malik does not have a party currently, so how will he be voting on the budget? Well, this is what he told us.
Yang lebih penting lagi ialah bagi isu pendidikan, tanpa kita lihat China, India, Melayu dan sebagainya, ke mana arah tuju kita ni? Sebab sekarang ni kita teraba-raba. Tadi pun ketika jawapan di parlimen, seolah-olah macam tak ada jawapan. Jadi kita menawarkan solusi. Orang kata asyik kritik je, bagilah cadangan. Cadangan kita tak mahu, kalau kita kasih cadangan je tak ada kesan. Bawa kita dalam jawatan kuasa, dalam membuat dasar, kita akan bincangkan bersama.
Doktor, untuk undi nanti, undi sama ada memo atau menolak belanjawan, pertimbangan utama doktor kita tahu ada pendidikan. Isu lain akan main peranan doktor tak untuk bentukkan undi doktor nanti? Okey, saya lihat bahawa banyak pihak telah menimbulkan pelbagai isu. Tadi pun hatta di pihak BN, mereka mempunyai isu yang mereka cakna. Semalam kita lihat Ketua Pembangkang mempunyai beberapa isu yang mereka gariskan. Jadi bagi saya, itu mereka telah suarakan. Bagi saya tumpukan pada bidang pendidikan. Dan tunggukan Isnin ini, apakah yang saya ingin bawakan.
Isnin kita buat tinjauan juga. Cikgu.
Ya. Satu lupa, kita buat satu tinjauan kepada para guru, kepada warga pendidik, dan setakat ni dah
lebih kita punya So, daripada situ kami tanya soalan-soalan yang very substantial lah. Adakah mereka setuju dengan bajet menyanyi. So nanti masuk dalam bahasan lah. Kita share nanti kesempatan tu.
Nanti kita akan bawa pada perbahasan hari Isnin ni.
Jadi maksudnya isu pendidikan ni akan menentukan undi doktor, boleh cakap macam tu lah.
Ya.
Tak terikat dengan politik kan?
Ya. Itu kayak politik lah. Politik saya adalah untuk rakyat dan untuk pendidikan.
Bukan orang fikir dia isu jasa, isu macam lah kan.
Tak apa, itu dia orang dah cakap. Tapi pada saya, politik saya adalah untuk memastikan pendidikan terbaik untuk rakyat dan juga memberikan yang terbaik untuk rakyat di Sabah Renggam. Itu tumpuan saya. Orang lain mungkin berpolitik untuk jawatan-jawatan tertentu, untuk parti dan kedudukan. Pada saya, politik saya adalah untuk memastikan pendidikan berkualiti dan terbaik untuk rakyat dan juga untuk memberikan yang terbaik bagi rakyat Sabah Renggam.
Several prominent Republican figures are urging Trump to do the right thing. Here's more on that.
The Republicans should stop their shenanigans about an election that President Trump has already lost.
As US President-elect Joe Biden on Thursday moved ahead with planning his new administration, Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer blasted President Donald Trump for refusing to concede the election and called out his Republican allies in Congress who are supporting Trump as it pursues legal challenges in several states and makes unsubstantiated claims of voting fraud.
Congressional Republicans don't have the evidence. They don't have the proof. They don't have anything. Neither does the president. Congressional Republicans are deliberately casting doubt on our elections for no other reason but fear of Donald Trump. These Republicans are all auditioning for profiles in cowardice.
But there are signs of weakening support for Trump's efforts. Staunch Trump ally Senator Lindsey Graham joined a small but growing number of Republicans who say Biden should have access to the president's daily intelligence briefings. Republican Senator James Langford said in a radio interview that if Biden did not receive the briefings by Friday, he would step in to assist. And the Las Vegas Review-Journal, owned by major Republican donor Sheldon Adelson, on Thursday ran an editorial saying that Trump seeks to delay the inevitable by not conceding, saying there is no evidence that fraud cost Trump the election, no matter how much his supporters wish it so. Since major news organizations called the election for Biden on Saturday, Trump has maintained a minimal public schedule, preferring instead to air his grievances on Twitter and has not addressed the alarming coronavirus caseload. Meanwhile, Biden on Wednesday made the first major appointment to his upcoming administration, naming veteran Democratic operative Ron Klain as his chief of staff. Foreign allies have congratulated the president-elect and Biden, who will be the second Catholic president after John F. Kennedy was congratulated by phone on Thursday by Pope Francis. Unidentified assailants sprayed the embassy of Saudi Arabia in the Netherlands with gunfire before dawn on Thursday. The embassy of Saudi Arabia in The Hague was sprayed with gunfire before dawn on Thursday. No one was hurt in the incident. Dutch police said they had arrested a suspect. He was a 40-year-old man from a neighboring town, but the police provided no details of his exact role or possible motive. The arrested man will be questioned. Images on Dutch television showed casings scattered on the street and bullet holes in the building's windows. Police also asked for witnesses to come forward in a Twitter post. In a statement, the embassy condemned the, quote, cowardly attack and urged Saudi citizens in the Netherlands to be on high alert. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. To all those celebrating Deepavali Valtikal, I'll see you again next week.